How to pay employees simplified. How to pay employer payroll taxes simplified. Welcome to the Business Finance Coach. Amanda here. And in this video, I'm going to simplify all of the employer payroll tax obligations. While I highly recommend using the software Gusto, which takes care of all of these things for you, it can still be helpful to understand all of the requirements. And when you're getting ready to do payroll, be sure to check out my other video about the 4 numbers and things you must apply for before you can actually move forward with payroll. So I broke out 4 stages. When you're actually hiring, before the person starts working, paychecks. As an employer, you have a quarterly requirement, and then again at the end of the year. So when hiring before work is actually performed, employees should fill out an I-9, which verifies that they can work in the U.S. The W-4 lets the person choose their number of withholdings, and that determines the amount of income tax that is withheld from their paychecks. 0 means the most is withheld. And with Gusto, they can go into their employee portal at any time and change any of this information. For contractors, it's not required that you send a W-9 before they work, but I recommend it. That way they know that you are following the rules and you know that you have to file a 1099 miscellaneous for them in order to write off the amount on your own business taxes, and you want to do that. So it sets the stage, and it also is your due diligence as far as getting that taxpayer's information for filing 1099 miscellaneous and having the address and number. As long as you requested this and you put what's on that form, you've done your part. ACH for direct deposit. So when you set up a person in your Gusto account, you'll have the option to send them through email a prompt to come into their portal and complete their forms. They do all this on their own, so that really saves some paperwork. Paychecks. So you get to choose the pay periods, but once you run payroll, direct deposit goes through 4 days later. And what you'll notice on the employee paycheck is that federal income tax is withheld based on that W-4 and the withholdings they reported. And also 7.65% of their pay is withheld for Social Security and Medicare taxes. Now, as the employer, you match them, paying 7.65% also when you file quarterly, which I'll get to next. And you also pay federal unemployment, FUTA taxes, and state unemployment. These tend to be very small. Federal unemployment is only on the first 7,000 of wages, unless it's been updated. So then we have each quarter. Now this is a strictly employer requirement. Those taxes that you're withholding that aren't your money, they're your employees' money, you need to remit, give it to the government. But what's convenient about Gusto is it just takes these amounts out every paycheck, so you're all set, and it's easier in your numbers as well. So when you send these taxes, you do so with Form 941, and there's a state equivalent as well, and all the taxes are sent by the due date, which is the 30th of the following month, ending the quarters, and the quarters start in January. Now, come year end, to employees, you have to provide them with a W-2 that summarizes all that they were paid, all of those amounts that were withheld, and all of the taxes, as well as any other information about benefits and that sort of thing. The W-2 reports all of that information to them so they can file their taxes. For contractors, you'll file Form 1099 miscellaneous in Box 7, non-employee compensation. And when you send these off to the IRS in a paper format, you include these transmittal forms. These won't really affect you since you're doing them virtually through Gusto anyways, but it's worth mentioning in case you ever hear of them, that all W-2s are sent with one W-3 that summarizes them, and same thing for the 1099s with one 1096. For payroll, Those quarterly forms are 941. At the end of the year, you file an annual form to reconcile the payroll quarters using form 944. So this is a reconciliation. So you can correct things on that annual form and keep going forward. So one thing to mention that when you are withholding taxes from your employee's pay, that's your employee's money. And if that doesn't get to the IRS, then you've kind of stolen twice. So the point is just to make sure that you don't borrow from that money that you withhold in taxes needs to get to the IRS. It's really important. There are really big fines and such for not getting that money there. And it's not that people mean to not pay that money to the IRS. However, if you have a large sum of money sitting there and you end up needing money, it can just happen where you borrow it. So that is one of the great things with Gusto is you can't borrow it. Gusto takes the money out, so they have the money after each paycheck, and that way they're ready to pay your taxes come the quarter. So it's all taken care of for you. Now, the one other thing to consider is I mentioned you could classify your workers as employees or contractors in one of the last videos, that you can define the position such that they qualify. Obviously, you can tell that it's easier to pay a contractor than an employee. However, you need to use definitely an accountant or tax professional, more likely, to make sure that your classification and job description qualifies as an independent contractor and isn't actually an employee. Because if it is an employee, according to the tax rules, not like people's logic, then it's actually considered evading payroll taxes, and there are large fines associated with that as well. So just some things to be aware of, and I hope this video helped clear up the taxes and requirements. I will see you in the next videos where I'll be jumping into how to use Gusto